You're listening to The Other 50%, a Herstory of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. This is the podcast where I talk to successful women in entertainment and hear their stories. Today, I got to speak with Lee Broda. Lee is an Israeli-born poet who writes about the beauties and uncertainties of life from a distinctly observant perspective. Her first book of poetry, Whispers from the Moon, is available now, and she reads some of it for us. Lee is also a celebrated actor and producer and is the founder of LB Entertainment, which develops, finances, and produces major independent films, where she has shepherded over 30 films to success. Additionally, Lee is the founder of the group Women Creating Change, an organization that bridges, empowers, and creates opportunities for female writers, directors, producers, and actors from the Middle East. We talked about all of it, like it's no big deal. You can find us at theother50%.com for added features, photos, show notes, and the merchandise. You can also listen on Apple Podcasts and all the podcast places. Also, the full season of Catch a Break, the insider's guide to getting into and navigating Hollywood, is now available on Apple Podcasts and all the podcast places and on the website, catchabreakpodcast.com. Go check that one out too. All right, here's my conversation with Lee Broda. Have a listen. So I know that you are an actor, a producer, a poet. You start companies, you start foundations, you're doing all the things. How do you describe what you do?
I say that I am a producer, actor. Well, depends who I talk to, because I feel like it depends on the day, but
it depends on what hat you're wearing.
Yeah, it really depends what project I work on. But yeah, because I also am a poet out of nowhere too. Yeah, and I write. And I used to cast, and I still sometimes consult as a casting director. Not as often, but you know, I feel like if I get paid for it, I can say that this is what I do, right? So,
of course. Let's start with your company, LB Entertainment. Tell us about that.
LB Entertainment, I started about 4 years ago, and it's a company that finance, produce, and develop mainly feature films.
And you've done tons of them.
Yeah, I've been pretty fortunate to be involved with a lot of great movies. A lot of them are under my company. Some of them aren't, since I had a partner before, Jeff Rice, and we worked together. I started as his intern, actually, and started working for him for many years, and we've done a few together as well. So some are under LB Entertainment and some aren't, but yeah.
And what do you have coming out soon?
So The Informer is probably one of my biggest film at the moment that I executive produced, is coming out this summer on August 16th. It's coming out wide in the US and actually around the world as well. And it's based on a book called 3 Seconds, and it's a really exciting crime thriller with an amazing cast that I got to work with. Common and Rosamund Pike and Joel Kinnaman and Clive Owen and Ana de Armas. So really wonderful. Yeah. And another movie called The Pretenders, which is a very different film, actually. It's a remake of a French movie from the 1970s that James Franco directed and Josh Boone wrote, with Jane Levy and Dennis Quaid. And again, James is also acting in it, but really great cast. Very different. It's more of a drama, a romantic triangle relationship drama between Jane Levy and the two other actors. So,
let's go back to the beginning. Like, what came first, the acting or the producing? And how did you know you even wanted to be in this business?
Well, what first came was actually dancing. I was a performer for many, many years. And as a kid, I used to perform on stage in dancing in a dance group, and got to perform kind of all over the world, mainly in Europe with it. And acting kind of came a little bit later. I think I was about 11. So I was doing that for many years, and then signed up to a school in Israel and decided that's going to be kind of the path for me. And then when I moved here to the States, I was still dancing professionally in a dance company here. And while I was going to college for drama and theater.
Oh, so you grew up in Israel, and then where did you move to?
I moved to LA when I was almost 20. I was 19. After the military service, I served for 2 years in the military in Israel, and then they released me early to come here and volunteer and teach dance, actually in summer camps and Jewish community centers. And they sent me to LA out of, all the 200 other camps that were available. And I was like, that's my sign.
Perfect. So where did you go to school?
I went to a conservatory here in LA. So I went to LA and New York, and I was dancing in New York for a little bit, and I was trying to decide where I wanted to go to school, and visited different schools in New York. And I found this small theater conservatory in LACC here in LA. And it felt like the acting school I went to back in Tel Aviv. And it was kind of my sign. I was like, this is home. This is where I want to spend the next 3 years of my life. So
wonderful.
I really kind of followed my heart with that. And I had an amazing time there.
So then once you graduated, how did you get in? How did you get your first job?
So while I was still going to school, even though we weren't allowed to have agents and managers until like the third year, I kind of broke the rules a little bit. I don't follow the rules a lot. But I had an agent and manager before I even graduated, and I joined SAG because I produced my first short to have a reel and be able to join the union, because I kept reading that it's so hard to get your SAG card. So I started producing my own stuff.
Smart.
And I feel like this is really, like, they really encouraged us at school to write and be involved and create a community. So I listened. But I think my first meaningful part was on NCIS. And I booked it through an audition with my manager. And same day was kind of first audition, then call back. And then 2 days later, you're on set filming. So it was really...
Oh my gosh. Exciting.
Yeah. But at the same time, I was also interning as a casting director. I was interning for Fern Champion. She cast The Mask and many other amazing movies. And she was working on a project on a mini TV series called Hatfields and McCoys with brilliant actors. And I interviewed for her, and she was kind of concerned hiring me because I was an actor. And casting directors don't always like that. But I really wanted to learn. So I was like, I'll do whatever you want, and worked for her for a few months and got to really understand the other side of the behind the camera. And that was kind of the beginning of my casting journey. Then I went on my own to cast shorts and then started casting features. And that's how I met Jeff Rice, the producer I started working for. And that transition kind of happened really naturally.
So the transition from casting to producing?
Yeah. I was casting at his studio while I was still producing smaller productions. So I was, there were a few shorts that I wrote that I also produced. And while I was casting, sometimes I was helping as a producer too. It was just something that came really naturally for me, working with people and overseeing people and connecting. I think one of my strengths are being a good connector and kind of understanding the moving pieces and how to bring them together to actually move things forward.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and he was telling me about this amazing project he was working on, a World War II movie that he owned the rights for, about Irina Sandler. And Irina Sandler saved 2,500 kids during the Holocaust, Jewish kids. And her life story was just so powerful and brilliant. And I told him, I was like, I want to be part of this project. So if I need to work for free, whatever you want, I'm here. And he took a chance on me, brought me to his office. I was working for him it became like from a short internship to an assistant and then a partner. And until I was ready to start LB Entertainment.
Wonderful. So your role as a producer, are you really finding projects and developing them and putting all the kind of high level pieces together and finding financing?
I think it depends on the project and my involvement. I'm really about making movies. So if I can be helpful early on in the process, I come at an early stage. And if it just, some people just need my help with financing and the kind of last piece, help save the movie and get it into production, I do that as well. So I don't develop as often because just LB Entertainment is not as big. I have an assistant and an intern and working with them, and it's really me kind of carrying a lot of it. So development, I'm able to do about 1 or 2 at a time. And then the rest are just different stages, but a little bit like later on in the process when there's a script and sometimes there's a director. A lot of the times there's already cast interested. So a lot of the times it's also financing only. So depends.
Oh, wonderful. Mm-hmm. Now, I know the financing bit is very mysterious to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. How did you kind of figure out that bit, and how do you go about it?
You know what? I feel like it changes constantly, and I feel like no one really figures it out, because it really depends on the industry as well. And sometimes there's a lot of equity, and a lot of people kind of throwing money into projects, and sometimes equity is really needed, and there are not a lot of people that are willing to take those risks. So I think it's really about finding good material and great cast, and the money usually comes. But I think just understanding your investors and understanding what they're looking for and how they want to be involved, and really coming from that angle of like, this is my passion. I'm trying to make this movie. What is your passion, and how we can make it happen together? So it's not really just chasing the money. It's really answering a lot of other things for them as well that they're looking for. That they
like finding alignment.
Yeah, it's similar to casting, right? Like, how do you know what the director is looking for? How do you know he will want this actor and not that actor? Or it kind of, I don't know, I feel like it's a deeper understanding of people as well. And maybe it was helpful with my military service because I was doing psychological evaluations. So understanding people and connecting to people is something that comes naturally to me.
Oh, that's interesting.
It may be, I don't know, because like a lot of people ask me that question. It's like, I don't really know. I know that I have good projects, and a lot of people now come to me. I don't have to chase investors as often. And I feel like I'm really trying to have their back and take care of them and make sure they don't lose their money, and do whatever I can do to protect them. Because, they're saying in our business, most people lose money. They come with money to the film industry and they leave with none. So I really try to build relationships and not just do one-offs with my investors, and really make sure they have a great experience throughout, at least from what I can control. So
yeah, that's great. Now let's talk about women creating change. That sounds up my alley. What is that?
So Women Creating Change is an organization that empowers, connect, and bridge Israeli and Arab female filmmakers through filmmaking. And we've been around for almost 2 years this summer. And it's super exciting. We actually are working on a big event of storytelling here in LA this summer called Stand Up for Her. So if you're in LA,
I'll come.
When I fly to LA, yeah, you should definitely come. It's going to be a super inspiring evening with different medium of storytelling and artists and filmmakers and painters. And the theme is women creating change, because we really want people to leave empowered and inspired. And we're showcasing females. So that's the entire evening will be female performances. So
wonderful. Now, what was the genesis of that?
It just started because I wanted to make a difference somehow and try to do something kind of bigger than myself. And I was kind of struggling with that. I feel like I listened to a lot of kind of self-growth and really wonderful, inspiring mentors, and they all talk about that, the secret of life and is giving. And I was like, what can I give? And how can I focus on, other people than just what I do? Because I felt like my happiness, I had a realization early on that my happiness wasn't really dependent on my projects and my career. Because that was like, I will make a movie and a day later I would be like, okay, what's next? And I realized for me to kind of stay sane and happy, it was just, I needed to find a bigger vision for my life. And I was always kind of thinking about the situation back home in Israel and the conflict with Israelis and Palestinians, and how come that I live here in the States, I have Arab friends and we all get along, and why is the situation back home is so problematic? So peace was always, and coexistence, something I was kind of curious about, and I really wanted to try and help somehow. And also the situation with women in the entertainment business. I felt like I wasn't working with a lot of women, and I was often the only woman in the room. And I was like, what can I do to make a difference? How come I'm not making any movies with female directors? So I realized I can bridge the two and create this organization called Women Creating Change that talks about that divisive community and bringing it together through filmmaking and creating opportunities for other women. And that's how it kind of started. That was the vision. And then I called all my men friends that I knew, and I was like, bring the women, where are they? And everyone kind of brought the female filmmakers that they knew to my house, and we started in a meeting of like 16 men and women in my living room from kind of all over the world, Egyptian and Syrian and Jordanian and Palestinians and Israelis and Iranians. And I was like, oh my God, you're all sitting in my living room and we're talking about how to create something like super powerful and how to be a stand in our community for good and how we can actually create a community because we're so similar. So it was really powerful that evening. And I was like, okay, let's take it to the next level. And we created a board and we created, lay out like what our goals were and our mission. And we had a big launch event here in Hollywood, not last November, but a year and a half ago, of like about 110 women. That was super meaningful. And we created a lot of opportunities and networking and things that weren't really available as an access to women. And when you realize the power of community, you just kind of, okay, how can we make more of those?
Right.
Yeah. So this is what I've been up to outside of kind of the filmmaking and the poetry and everything else. It's just running this organization with other great women that are donating their time and resources to really make a difference for other women. So,
and what are some of the initiatives that you're working on?
So we do a lot of workshops, and we bring some mentors, and we do roundtables and screenings, and a lot of community building events, just kind of to hang out, even to have brunch or to go listen to a concert or a play. Because we realized that in order to be able to talk about to have the difficult conversations about what's happening in the Middle East, we really need to trust each other and create friendships. So we do both. And Stand Up For Her is like our main kind of next event. And it's going to be pretty huge. It's going to, first of all, it's a fundraising also for the organization. So we can create a mentorship program and other program for filmmakers and also sustain the organization. But also an opportunity to showcase the women and create more of a community and find more women to join us. We're working on kind of different levels to create something.
And where can people find that event so that they can get tickets?
So Women Creating Change on our website, so womencreatingchange.com. We haven't started selling tickets yet. We're going to start selling tickets in June, but we actually just posted a call for submissions. So we're calling all female storytellers and mainly Middle Eastern and North African to submit their work. And we're working with a casting director, and we're going to showcase about 12 women from different mediums. So poets and stand-up comedians and shorts and storytellers and different art forms. So we're super excited.
Wonderful.
So it's on the website. Yeah.
And I'll link to it on my website as well, so everyone can go find that.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Yes.
Now, let's talk about the poetry, because you're also a poet and you have a book coming out, or a book that came out.
Yes. My book came out December 5th, and it's on Amazon and it's on other bookstores. You can go into a bookstore and order it, but it's called Whispers from the Moon, and it's a poetry book.
Now, how would you characterize your poetry?
Free verse, emotional, vulnerable, and raw. I think I write from a very vulnerable place, which was kind of new to me because I was wearing like a businesswoman hat for so many years. And this is a very different side of me that I'm able to share with the world.
It's very brave.
Yeah, it was very terrifying, actually. So I feel like it's still a struggle how much of yourself you want to put out there for the world to see and connect and judge and, so. Would
you read us a piece?
Oh, I would love to. Sure. Okay. Tribe. That's one of the poems. I'm brave, braver than before, shifting a sheep into a lion, evolving into a great warrior. I am a fighter, stronger than before, molding flesh into metal, becoming my own protector. I'm an extension of all women, each a part of my history, a tribe older than life running through my veins. Our voices will always surface, echoing out from the dead. This is Tribe.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Well, now I'm going to ask you, what do you make of what's been going on with women the last couple of years?
Feel like there's a great shift in the industry. Obviously, the conversation everywhere I go is about women and, the Time's Up and Me Too. And I think there's a lot of filmmakers now and studios and production companies are looking for female-driven content that didn't really exist back then. And also because we see that amazing movies like Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel that are all female-driven and are carried by women doing so well at the box office, that now the argument kind of changed. And we know that, a lot of the tickets and the moviegoers are actually women. So there's no reason why a woman cannot carry a movie the same way a man can.
They do make money.
They definitely make money. And listen, I'm a business person and I do financing. So I understand the difficulty sometimes that it's a bit more risky, because when you look at the foreign market and how you evaluate the value of actors in other countries, there's men that can carry movies and their value just higher than women, but it's just based on like numbers and not really box office. So the conversation is definitely shifting, but it still exists. There's still other, really great actors that you just get more money from each country. So you still sometimes need to package a strong man with a strong woman, and it is the reality. But I think there's definitely a positive shift into that direction, and especially studios and taking more gamble, and more risk with that. But it's interesting, like I never really looked at that at least from my point of view. When I started, I never thought, oh my God, I'm a woman. Like, how am I going to do financing? Or how am I going to, be the only woman in the room? It was never something that occurred to me. I just came from like my way of looking at life, and what I want to do is like, this is what I want to achieve and how do I go about it? And not from, oh my God, I can't do it because I'm a woman or because this is a field that is dominated by men. I just never really looked at things from that angle. So it was kind of surprising to me to hear all these conversations that people feel hindered because they're women. And I was like, to me, it was just, I'm going to do it. It was pretty obvious.
So did you not feel any obstacles as you were coming up?
There were obstacles. It's not like it was super easy. First of all, I started at 25. And I was the young one in the room too. So
yeah.
It took a really long time to be taken seriously. And I don't know if it was because I was a woman or because I was young, but I felt like that even though I take a meeting and maybe the attitude of the person across from me is like, oh my God, what am I doing here? Like, she's so young, or she's a woman, or she doesn't know. Like, but I felt like 5 minutes in or 10 minutes in, how it shifts, like how their opinion about me shifts. Because at the end of the day, I know what I'm doing and I know what I'm talking about. So people evaluate you for what you bring to the table. So if I kind of set standards for my work and my name out there in the industry and I deliver on that, the fact that I'm a woman it shouldn't be an obstacle. Like, that's how I was looking at it. I was like, just give me the meeting and I'll prove you wrong. Or let's do a conference call and and I'll prove you wrong.
Right. Because you're bringing it.
Because you bring it, because you know what you're doing and you work hard and, you're honest. And, there's so many other qualities that I really believe in and I try to hold my standards to. So it wasn't sometimes easy to get the meetings, but I feel like as women, sometimes we just don't think we're capable as much as men. I think that's really the obstacle that I'm trying to fight against, is just like, I see other men that done less than me, a lot less than me. And they're running around town raising huge funds and, believing they can carry $100 million fund with not as much experience. And I'm more cautious and, I was like, I need to prove myself first before I can manage a big fund. So,
right. There's definitely a confidence gap.
Yeah. And I feel like it's us hindering ourselves, right? Like we just don't think we're ready for the opportunity sometimes when the man kind of jumps on it and they're like, worst case, we'll fuck it up or, mess it up. But I feel like it's up to us to be confident and put ourselves out there as much as the man and, risk and be okay with failure. So I think we're sometimes our own enemy and not always the men.
So I take it your advice would be to go for it.
Yeah, it's to kind of think bigger and be ready to fail and not wait to be prepared. I think I faked so many things until I made it, until I knew what I was doing. I remember on my first meetings on my own without Jeff, my boss at the time, I was like, oh my God, I don't even know. But I went there and, and you stumble and sometimes you don't really know what you're talking about. But, that's how you get experience and that's how you learn. And it's something that I feel like it's my outlook about life. I did it with my poetry book. I didn't know how to write a book. I didn't know I was even a poet. I just kind of followed my heart and my passion. And I obviously worked hard and made sure I had mentors and I asked a lot of questions and I hired the right people to surround me for their advice and their guidance and experience in order for this book to be solid and complement my standards. But I kind of went for it. So I do that a lot. And I don't know, it's just, I guess, who I am in the world. And I think that's how you get things done. It's not hesitating as much and really do and not talk as much. I don't really talk. I usually just do and talk after.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds to me like you have both things, which is being an artist and having the artist sensibility, but you also have a very developed business sense and a business mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love deal making.
Yeah. Did you always realize that? Did you consciously develop those things separately, or you're just, this is who I am and I'm going to do all the things?
I think it was actually a really hard, like an inner conflict in me. Because I was like, oh my God, I'm so good in math and physics and chemistry, but why do I want to be a dancer and act all the time? So my parents were always like, you can be whatever you want. Like I was a really good student and I was, in like those special classes. And I was like, okay, but I really want to be performing. So why am I studying so hard and doing chemistry in high school when I can just do acting and theater? But my parents really pushed me to do both because they were really skeptical about the business. And I was always like a perfectionist and high achiever. So I was like, okay, so I'll do both. But yeah, I was always good with numbers. I kind of stumbled into it because of the producing aspect and where I was at with Jeff and learning the financing side of the business that I realized, okay, I'm actually good with numbers and finance plans and that side of the business. Mm-hmm. And then I will sneak to auditions and, it was so like weird. And I feel like people still don't get it. They're like, oh my God, you're making all these big movies. And then you go and do like a movie here and there. Like, why? And I was like, because I love both. And I don't think I have to choose if I actually do well in both, right? Like, so
yeah, do it all.
I know. And it's, again, a lot of people say you have to focus. So I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. And I hope, I don't know, if all my focus was into one thing, maybe I'll be somewhere else. But I feel like at the moment it just makes me happy and that's important enough for me to keep doing what I want to do. So,
well, it sounds like you're doing just fine.
Thank you. I work hard, so yeah.
What have I not asked you about that I should have asked you about?
I know there's so many exciting movies, but I think the two that I'm really proud of recently are Private War, that we didn't really touch on, that came out in November in theaters, but then in iTunes and kind of the online platforms in February. And it's actually coming out in Israel, which I'm super excited about in a few weeks. So,
yeah, tell us what that one's about.
At Private War, it's about Marie Colvin, which was the UK war correspondent to the Middle East, and it follows her path and her journey reporting from all these war-torn countries like Syria and Sri Lanka. And she actually died in Syria when a bomb fell on the house they were reporting at and hiding. And Rosamund Pike is playing Marie Colvin, and she was actually nominated for Best Actress at the Golden Globes. So I got to go, which was my first time and probably the highlight of my career so far.
Fantastic.
But yeah, it was just really inspiring to be involved with such a meaningful film, and especially because it's a true story. And those are the movies I'm really passionate about making. And I'm really fighting for those to get made. Those are usually the ones that are really hard to get made because they're not as commercial.
Yeah.
But we had an amazing team, and I was really fortunate to join the team and bring some value. And yeah, that's the one I'm super proud of. And there's other fun ones that are just as exciting, but they're different genres, and which is cool. I guess I get to be involved with horror movies and some action films. So it's awesome.
That's so wonderful. It sounds like you have such a great career, like
Thank
in
you.
a very fulfilling sort of sense. I'm so glad you're making those movies, because it's in the land of the tent poles. I think we really need independent filmmakers making all the other stories that we need to have out in the world.
Yeah, I agree. And it's always a fight. It's always like a struggle to make sure they get made. But there's so many people that it's important for them to help tell these stories. We just need to find them. So if anyone is listening to your podcast and want to help us make more of these movies,
send the money.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just knowing how to make them for the right budget and find the partners that will take the risk with you. And make sure you have a great team so the movie is actually great and get discovered and people actually go and watch it. So
yeah, wonderful. What is next for you?
I'm flying actually on Monday to New York, starting a new movie called Tesla about Nikola Tesla that Ethan Hawke is starring in. And at the same day, I'm actually starting another movie in Toronto. So that's going to be interesting, but exciting. And another movie called Lansky that I'm actually producing and been on for about 5 years now, about Meyer Lansky. He was a Jewish gangster in the 1930s and 40s that has an amazing life story that kind of spans over 5 centuries. And he started Murder Inc. in Vegas and Cuba, and he was helping fight the Nazis in New York in the 1940s. So it just it's based on obviously his life, and we're still casting it, and we're shooting this summer, hopefully.
Oh my God, your plate is full.
It is, but I'm always looking for great things. So there's always building the next one.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you took the time to talk with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for doing this.
Chatting. Awesome. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you. You've been listening to The Other 50%, A History of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. I'd like to thank Lee Broda for sharing her story. You can find out more about Lee at leebroda.com. That's LeeBroda.com. And special thanks to Jay Rowe, Danny Rosner, and Allison McQuaid for the music. Please find us on your favorite podcast provider and leave a review. And of course, on our website, theother50%.com, all spelled out in letters, for added features, bios of our guests, and the merch. You can also follow us on all the social media platforms. And also go subscribe to catchabreakpodcast.com. Thanks for listening. See you next time.